This is Utah Mountain Biker here. Today we're going to be building the Diamondback Atroz FS. As you can see, it's going to be straight out of the box. Some things to consider when you're buying a box like this that's not assembled from a store is you're going to want to go through with all the components that have been assembled by the factory and make sure that they are true and make sure that they run straight. You're going to want to look at the derailleurs, the brakes. You're going to want to look at all that to make sure it's going to be a safe bike to ride and make sure nothing is going to give you problems when you're out riding it. So let's get this thing out of the box and start building. Okay, we've got the bike up on the table now. The first thing we need to do is we need to turn the stem around as it was packaged backwards so it would fit in the box better. Right now the fork is showing in the correct orientation. You have the sanction here in the front, then you have the brake caliper mount in the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and loosen these bolts and we're going to flip this around and then we can go ahead and put the handlebar on. Alright, we're going to go ahead and mount this handlebar. I want to make sure your cables don't get twisted when we're mounting it, or else when you're turning they might bind up, give you some problems on the trail. So you don't want to disconnect this brake because they are pre-bled hydraulic brakes and it would kind of make a mess everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the center, get these plates on, get these screws started. You're going to want to do it similar to doing lug nuts on a car. You're just going to go corner to corner as you're tightening them. Now some mountain bike stems have a hole here in this front plate so you can see the orientation marks on the handlebar. This one doesn't, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate this upwards to make sure I get it centered and then just rotate it back into a position, and that should be in a good enough position now to where I can go ahead and tighten those screws. Now I'm not going all the way tight on each screw, I'm just kind of working them in one at a time to seating them down. You want kind of an even spacing on the gaps here. You're not going to try to get them to touch. You can snug them down so it's even, and then tighten them. The next couple of steps are going to be relatively easy, so I'll pretty much just blow through those real quick. It'll just entail putting the seat post in, as well as putting the pedals on. Now, the one thing I'm a little disappointed in is this is actually missing a plastic clip to hold this cable in place. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of extra slack here. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'll probably just come down and take this housing off, disconnect the cable, shorten this sleeve a little bit, and then I'll take some of this slack out. But I'll also have to cut and crimp the cable at the same time. So it did come with some extra crimps that'll come off. It came with the kit, so I'll just take this off, clip that, and then put a new crimp on it. Should be pretty quick. Now, one thing I did notice as I was putting this left pedal on is apparently there is a wrench wedged into the rear triangle, so make sure you check for that before you take this thing out for a ride and see if we can get that out. So, could have been bad. Okay, next all we need to do is mount the front disc brake, and then we can mount the front wheel. To mount the front disc, all we need to do is take this mounting bracket off, mount it to these holes, and then mount the disc to that. Disconnect the bracket. Go ahead and put the bracket on. You want to use these smaller holes as this is the mount for the caliper. Now you're going to want to route the caliper to the inside of the fork. There's a clip here in the front you can't see, but with the routing of the cable, it's actually going to tuck in nicely, so it's going to be out of the way. Leave this plastic clip in until just about you're ready to mount the wheel, as it'll help keep your brake pads separated, and just it's kind of a nice thing. So you're going to want to just start these bolts and snug them up just enough. There's going to be some side-to-side movement on your caliper. And you're going to want that a little loose to help center your caliper on your disc so you don't get any rubbing, which will cause some premature wear on your brake pads. So, too tight. So I'll leave it enough for some side-to-side movement. Too tight. Okay. Go ahead and put the wheel on. Oh, I forgot to take the disc out, or the spacer out. There we go. Tighten this down. Alright, now let's get that tucked out of the way for now. Worry about that in a minute. Let's start seeing, so you can hear that it's just rubbing. So let's see about getting that centered. Pull it away from there. Here we go. Alright, we've got the front to stop rubbing. Now what we need to do is take a look at the rear brake and see how this one's doing. So there's some rub there, so we're going to need to fiddle with these mounts a little bit to help get this centered up and get that rubbing to stop. Alright, after messing with bolts here and here to center this caliper, we managed to get the rubbing noise to go away. The other thing I had to do is I had to check and make sure the disc was running straight. It actually had a little bit of a warp, which was causing it to run sometimes, but not all the time. So if you're hearing an intermittent rub, check the trueness of the disc, because sometimes it gets a little warped during shipping or however it's handled. Just keep an eye on that, and that might help solve some of your rubbing issues. Alright, next up, all we have left is to run through the gears and make sure everything works the way it should. And then we'll put some air in the shocks and take it out for its test. So it's not moving to the inside, which is a good sign. See if we can get it come down. Alright, we got a little bit of rub here. Adjust that if we can. Back through. There's some warp in this plate we'll need to take a look at. Getting some cross chaining and this little bit of rub here. Some gaps. Looks like it's mold-ish with the plastic working. But other than that, it looks okay. So the only thing it's got left to do is shorten up this tubing, get some of the slop taken out, and then we're done. Alright, all we've got left now is to check the air in the shock, make sure that's good, and take it out for a test spin after we get this done. So this is just a regular top peak air shock that can be used on forks and shocks, or front forks and these rear shocks. So you screw that on, then you screw that into place. Let's see, it currently has 150 pounds. Pump it up to about 190 for my weight. And we'll check for sag when I go out and ride it for the first time. Now, unfortunately, the front shock does not have an air shock. It's just a coilover spring. Okay. Close this off. That's it. This dust cap and we're done. Alright, there you have it, the Diamondback Atroz FS. Pretty good looking bike, I think. It's got this nice matte black Diamondback, high mount shock, upper rear triangle, no front derailleur, just a single speed crank. Just need to go back and trim this up a little bit, clean this up, and should be good to go. Good bike, looks good.